So you need the back. Ooh. I can hear myself.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're so happy to be here. It is day 2 here at IBS, and the day is going. It's going and going. I'm in a suit now. Just ran from West Hall to get over here presenting, and now I'm here sharing with my amazing friend Lizzy Craig. Say hello, Lizzy. Tell everybody who you are and who you're with and where you come from.
All right. So, I am Lizzy Craig. I'm with Holiday Builders. I am the Central Purchasing Systems Manager, and I actually come from here, Florida.
Okay. Wonderful. Glad to have you. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about how builders use data to make faster decisions in the volatile market. Now, I've actually never had the opportunity, and so I'm excited, to speak with someone in ops, in purchasing. Tell maybe the sales and marketing people like myself what you guys actually do. Do you like get mad at us because we promised like, hey, yeah, you can have that bath and everything? It's like, oh no, we don't have that option.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
We're just, we try to organize the chaos is really what
Okay.
it boils down to,
Okay.
which is what ultimately helps us be able to manage those costs in relationships to the margins and so on and so forth.
Okay. When markets shift, when markets change, how are builders, how are you guys making decisions with the data that you have? How does that change when the market kind of goes up and down, tariffs in, out, one way? Like, what's all going on and how does that work with you guys?
A lot of moving parts. So ultimately, data is by far the best thing that you can go off of.
Okay.
We don't all have a crystal ball. If we did, we definitely wouldn't have to guess on what we're doing.
Yeah.
But if we look at that data from behind what we were just dealing with the last quarter, the last year, so on and so forth, it allows us to try to forecast what we need to do and try to get in front of those elements that we're dealing with.
Okay. We've been talking a lot this week about, integrated systems and having systems talk to each other.
Absolutely.
Why does that translate to your position? Why is that so key and why is that so important? How does that affect you when data is getting pulled from, let's say, from one hand out to the next to the next?
It affects everybody ultimately. It's not just the operation side. It's really, when we integrate and we make a subtle change in the back side of things, it ultimately translates to the front side of things. So ultimately that sales team can't sell that product if it's not physically in the system, and then vice versa. If they are selecting those options, now that allows us to collect that data and determine, okay, is that option something that we want to continue to maintain because they may or may not be using it. So at that point, that allows us to make those decisions on, are these 3 selections something that we really want to continue on with and waste our time with, or do we really need to go and see what the newest, latest, and greatest options are that are out there to allow them to make those better decisions. And then, of course, it goes into the construction side of it as well, because, again, it's all fully integrated with the construction team updating those schedules, the way that they, as they're operating out in the field. Now that gives the internal office that visual of what's actually going on out there without having to be out there. So there's a lot of moving parts.
That sounds like a lot.
Yes.
What data are you looking at? You kind of mentioned that when it's time to make a decision, is there a formula or how does that process work when it's like, hey, let's change this option and let's not do this? What's that process kind of look like from your perspective?
It all varies because unfortunately, everything is varying. Even here, walking around, IBS, you're seeing all these new and improved things that are out there. So now it's okay. Is this something that could work for us? Now we test that data, we put it in, we determine if it is something that's feasible. Or you're working on the material and cost side of things for the true purchasing world, and we're determining, okay, what can we do to streamline our takeoffs? What can we do to centralize the information that we have in order to make sure that all of our regions are maximizing their full capacity when it comes to those margins?
Questions kind of popped up in my head. Is there a balance between like data and say like a gut feeling? Like walking around IBS, maybe something that looks shiny and good. How is there a process for like we should do this, or can there be too long of a process where data, and maybe we missed a trend or something because we were too slow in making a decision?
Absolutely. Again, no crystal ball. So we don't know what we don't know, but we can use that data to help us figure that information out. the recently we've had some situations where we've now because we're more of a production builder, so we've reintroduced the capability of doing a gourmet kitchen, because we took that away during COVID times because of the availability of the chips for the ovens and all of those types of things. Well, now it was, okay, let's put this option on a 6-month trial to see if it's really worth us continuing to use that, option and so on and so forth. And we've already been able to use that data to see, okay, in less than 2 months of having that option out there, we've already sold it upwards of 30 plus times.
Wow.
So with that data, it's able to say, okay, this change was effective and worth our time and our effort. Let's continue on with it. Or do we want to go ahead and say, okay, we haven't sold one in 2 months. Let's just go ahead and scrap that so that we're not wasting our time managing that unnecessary data.
That's phenomenal. Are you using like customer feedback? Are you using one salesperson saying, hey, this is really going to be fire? Like what kind of data are you guys using, and how are you getting this to make these decisions for your company that's turning into profit?
Yeah, and unfortunately for us, fortunately actually for us, we are all over the entire state of Florida, right? So we do have situations where even our developments that are within the same region aren't mimicking the same philosophy. So you might have it to where one development is really thriving with this particular option, but then you have another development that may be 5 miles down the road, but it's not doing the same production that the other one is. So what's nice about this is, with all of the data that we have, we're collecting it across the entire state. So we're able to say, okay, as a big scheme picture, we may not be doing it in this one development, but across 7 developments, it actually is growing. And so we're able to use that mass data collection and that broad span of markets, because every market, even like I said, within a mile range of each other, could be completely different, because you've got those different geographical situations, you've got different competitors in those markets. So really, there's a lot of moving parts.
What happens when accounting and purchasing and maybe even construction are looking at different numbers? How does that affect the process? How does that affect things? And what's a solution for that, for maybe someone who's watching who have that experience right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So we just recently even did that ourselves, where the accounting department knows that they are applying, let's just say, construction interest cost. So our purchasing managers don't necessarily see that information, because they're dealing with the estimating and the beginning sides of things, whereas the accounting is dealing with the actual cost that they're putting in the system. So because we have all of that information in a centralized system, our accounting department can see that we've got it budgeted for this amount, but we're still paying these actuals. So now we're communicating quicker to each other that, hey, even though you've been budgeting it for $1,000, we may need to reconsider it and look at it to be maybe $2,000. And then we collect that data across the entire company and go, oh, yep, we're seeing it. This market may still be okay at 1,000, but everywhere else has actually increased. So let's make those budget, adjustments quicker. So that's where accounting can help out. As they're applying those costs, they're seeing those budgetary fluctuations, and now they're going, oh, wait a second, we might want to reconsider that for review. And we also use the VPO systems to monitor that on a monthly basis to say, hey, this low-hanging fruit really needs to have some attention put on it. Let's go figure out what our problems are, and let's tackle those quickly.
Phenomenal. When the market does shift, when we see these ebb and flows, what are some systems and things that builders can put in place, or maybe even need to put in place, to respond to the market?
That's a hard one. But when it comes to the use of a software tool, that's where you can really enhance those decisions a lot faster, because we joke about it in the office: trash in, trash out, right? So if you're putting trash in the system, you're going to get that data trash 100%. Back out. So the key to all of this is getting as much accurate information as you can, so that you can visually see that data and be able to make those better decisions.
Okay. Do you feel that builders lose more time when they're trying to collect this data, or when they're actually trying to evaluate and make decisions from the data?
It really just depends on the tool, and it also depends on what data you're actually looking for. Again, every situation is a little different, but with using a fully integrated software, what's great about that is it is an instant decision capability, because you've entered that information in on one end, and it's going to spit out what you're trying to look for on the other end. So having it to where that buy-in of, your CM updating their schedule on a instant basis. They're already going to update a schedule, whether it's paper or digital. So why not go ahead and do it digital, so that now they're speaking to the individuals that are not physically on that job site and making it that much faster for you to make those decisions.
Amazing. Give an example maybe of where acting quickly in a decision, maybe protected margin, or maybe when you acted too slowly. You have any examples of that you could share with us?
Absolutely. So, during the turn of COVID and the market with material supply accessibility and things of that nature, we were able to really see, where the problems lie and work with our trade partners in order to try to purchase things at a bulk level and get them stocked up, so that when it did come time for us to be able to put them on our houses that are in the pipeline, we were protecting those numbers. So again, it kind of goes back to that example that I had with the gourmet kitchen.
Right.
We were offering it, but because we couldn't produce that due to the limitations that we had for the material supplies, we just went ahead and we took it out of our lineup. But it's not that it was gone forever. We were able to resurrect it and now successfully continue on with the shift of the market.
I'm kind of curious, even again, I was in sales and marketing, so I kind of feel like I was siloed. Like, I've never heard this perspective, because I would see a decision made or hear a decision made, and then sometimes maybe it's not explained why. How can we fix that gap of silos where there's a reason for everything, but maybe I don't know why? And so I might not be able to share that effectively with the customer, or it's just now we start resenting one another instead of coming together, understanding here's why the gourmet kitchen was taken away, not because we're trying to stop sales or trying to hinder you.
Correct. Yeah. And the key to all of that, and the key to everything really in life, is communication.
Yeah.
So, like you said, unfortunately, you do feel like you're in a silo. You feel like you're, excluded from that information. But if you have those tools that are put into play, it does make it a little bit easier to be able to explain those, those elements. I'm going to use the gourmet kitchen again as an example. At the end of the day, it was, we need this gourmet kitchen, we need this gourmet kitchen. But they didn't understand why it cost such a large amount to the buyer.
Right.
Well, by communicating the elements that now change, it's not just a stove anymore, and a stove that contained an oven and a cooktop on it.
Okay.
Now you have to separate those components. Now you have to include a different cabinet, concept. So now all of those different elements are now cha-ching, increasing those costs. But if you don't give them that visual tool and that representation of what is happening, they are going to feel like they're siloed. So really all departments really need to communicate to each other to a certain extent. Okay. But I personally am learning this. You have to know your audience. They don't need to know the ins and outs of all the details of, I had to create 7, different purchase orders to generate this new option. They just need to know that these are the affected elements to it, and this is why they are, a larger amount, a larger retail to the buyer.
I think that's so critical and key, because I think if I had been working at Holiday and you guys would have said that, I would have heard you say that, it'd be like, ding, ding, ding. And if someone's on the phone and they ask for the gourmet kitchen, I could say, well, here's why, Mr. Buyer.
Absolutely.
It's not a way right now, but we're actually saving you money, because we would hate for you to not be able to afford this home because the cost was so high.
Absolutely.
It just makes more sense. So thank you for that.
No problem.
Is there any ways that we could better communicate? Do you guys have monthly meetings, daily meetings? Like, how often do you guys come together and kind of share across divisions?
It varies, depending on the departmental stuff. We do have a lot of monthly meetings, so operations will meet on a monthly basis. Yeah. Sales will meet on a monthly basis. We actually have a system change that we're going to implement next week, actually. And so I made sure that we're coordinating a pre-change conversation. We'll do a Zoom meet or Teams meeting. I'll show them what
Okay.
to expect with the sales team, how it's
Okay.
going to affect in the software, so that it's not just an email that says, hey, here's all the things that you have to do. And then when they go to actually put it into action, they have no idea. So there's more, it's helpful to have more tools.
Wow.
They'll have a visual, 2-minute video of
Okay.
you need to do this, this, and this.
That helps me.
There you go. They'll have a manual, or an email that has, hey, you need to do this screenshot, this screenshot, this screenshot. And then again, their leaders, the people that they should be going to with the questions, will now be given those tools ahead of time, and they have that ability to now question and answer that, so that they're not sitting there going, I'm not sure how to answer this question. Let me go find out for you. So it streamlines the efficiencies by giving the tools to the right people in order to communicate it to everybody.
Awesome. Final two questions. First would be, how does having a centralized system kind of reduce that second guessing?
It's more eyes. Actually, let me rephrase that. It's less eyes on more data, right? So here's another quick example, roofing. Okay, we recently realized that we are collecting turnkey bids from our trade partners for roofing, and with those turnkey bids, you've got the same exact floor plan across the entire state that may have one square count from one trade and another square count from another trade.
Okay.
Well, why wouldn't we just streamline that? Why wouldn't we do the takeoff, dictate what that is, and now have them give us that multiplier? So it allows us to now systematically come up with a more streamlined cost, and nobody's going to see or have those variations and those hurdles that they're having to work against, because we know that this floor plan is this amount of squares, no matter what region it's built in, and that's how we're working that, that job. So it allows us to see that data quicker, instead of one purchasing manager over here entering in 30 squares and this purchasing manager over there entering 32 squares. Now we're paying the same floor plan, but we're paying 2 more squares over here versus the less number over here. So those eyes that are in that central department can go, oh, wait a second, it's the same floor plan. Why are we doing different stuff?
Final takeaway, what would you share with those watching and anybody in purchasing and in ops? Give them some insights on how they can become more efficient and streamlined. Some of the things that you've learned and you've shared today, kind of sum that up for them for 2026 as they move forward.
I would definitely say, again, like I said earlier, communication is definitely the key.
Yeah.
Having those upper heads for those departments really communicating with each other and being in sync with the decisions that are being made is definitely critical, because then that's how you can communicate that along the lines to where, in that gourmet kitchen, example, they are getting the necessary knowledge that they need, but not feeling like they're in a silo. And that communication is by far the biggest thing when it comes to a fully integrated system as well as a fully integrated company.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Lizzy. If you have any questions or you want to contact her, drop some comments below in the video. As always, thank you.
Thank you.